shiny. I'm coming on today to answer Diane's question that I posted as the title of the video. And I'm still driving, even though it's 9:19, because I overslept today, or I let myself sleep in too much today because I went to bed too late last night and he swallowed the cat to catch the dog and all that stuff. So this is the deal. Yes is the answer to the first question. So the first question, let me get focused. Okay, the first question is, so Diane says that she started working in her budget diary last night, the new one, and is wondering if she's supposed to, I guess you have a notebook, a spiral bound notebook, and you're wondering if you should take out the pages from your spiral bound notebook that you already worked on and maybe hole punch them and put them in your new budget diary that's a 3-hole punch diary. The answer is yes. Because part of what's going to make you successful is being able to see how far you've come. I'm going to plug myself in so I'm not yelling, because I tend to feel like I need to yell and I know I don't need to. Okay, no music? Okay, good. Okay, so part of the magic of the budget diary is comparing how far you've come, and that's also the magic of the debt snowball. It's just being able to see that it builds momentum. So you've knocked down some things. You start out with a super messy budget. You start out with an expense tracker that has front, back, and you end up being able to get that cleaner, and you also notice that you're getting better and better at it, which creates the momentum of getting better and better at it. So yes, by all means, it's been a year, actually. It's been a year since I started using the budget diary, and I have all the way back from notebook paper, and it's a mess. It's so ugly, and it's not in my happy planner right now because the pages were not that same size, but I have a binder where I have from the beginning, all of it. So sometimes I can just flip back and be like, wow, look how far you've come. Not just how messy it is, how confusing it was, but also when you write down all of your expenses, you tend to notice, like, man, I have a lot of transactions every month, which is great. You can say I'm rich in transactions. That's fine. But as the months go on, like last month, I had a lot. Last month, I totally fell off the wagon. It was our first month being debt free, and I got loose. You know, that's what happens when you're a spender. It's like an addiction. You just start, like, I felt like, oh, you know, I don't have to go to the grocery store. I don't have to cook every single day. And I just got really loose with what we were doing. And so going back through and writing all those down and reviewing that, I was like, this is not the way I want to live my life. So in July, I haven't had as many transactions because I just have it so strong in my spirit that I want to cut down on my transactions. And when you cut down your transactions, you end up saving money because you're just not spending, you know, all the frivolous stuff. And it's not even about the amount. It's about the number of transactions, not about the dollar amount. It's about the number of transactions. So just that comparison from one month to the next will make you save money. It becomes like a game, I guess. So that was the first question. Should I tear out the pages of my old diary, punch them, put them into my new diary? I say yes, if they still fit, you know, if they're still, you know, if both are 8.5 by 11 and it still fits, you can cut the little fringe off the edge. I say absolutely go for it. And the next part of the question is, do I now? So for July, because we didn't really do July's budget. We were kind of waiting for all of them to arrive in the mail. And so we were like, okay, let's wait till everybody gets up to speed, then let's do July's budget. And then we never really did July's budget. So for July, what you're going to do is the same thing that we did. I need to make a proper video for this, don't I? But what we need to do is you take your expenses that you wrote out for June, and you take your income and you fill it into the actual budget page. So when you take your expenses, and this will kind of be able to let us know if you need the big budget diary or if you need the little budget diary, because I actually split it into 2 products. And I made a post for you guys to tell me. It was like the one with the 4 questions. So please respond to that, because I'm about to have to mail out the rest of the budget diary to you. One of them is 54 pages, and it is not, it's all you need if you don't have a complicated budget. The other one is 98 pages, and it is a lot if you have, if you have a complicated budget like I do, then you need that. Diane, you have a complicated budget, you would need that. I think probably Brandy doesn't have a complicated budget, because I've sat down one-on-one with her. She doesn't need the full 98 page one, but I need to know which one you need, because I'm giving it to you for free, but I still have to pay to get it printed. So that's a huge difference in cost for me, and postage and everything. And plus, I don't want to send you all of these papers that you don't need. And it's kind of like, I don't even really need all of this. So the quality of the products is not different. It's the same artwork, it's the same products. It's just that some of the pages that are extra pages that are not needed, you don't have to have them. So it cuts it down to almost half the size. So what you're going to do to budget for July is that you take the expenses that you wrote down for June and you analyze those the same way, meaning you put them in a category. So you have a box that says housing, and you take things that are related to housing that you want to put in that box, and you group them all together. If you have a simple budget where you just have, like your regular bills, you have like your water bill, your rent, your daycare bill, you just have bills like that. Like, you don't have bills that need to be grouped together. Like, I have several things that have to go under one category, because if I didn't, my budget would be too long. It would be pages and pages long. So I have to group them all together and just like call it transportation, because under transportation, there's the gas for my car, the gas for my husband's car because he lives in a different city. There is the toll charges that I have, and there is something else. I can't even remember right now what else I have in my... I have something else under with my commute, because I have a crazy commute and my husband lives somewhere else, and we things are not all on the same place. But there's 4 things just for transportation for me. But anyway, so all you do is you take those expenses and you put them in a category that makes sense to you. It doesn't even have to be the perfect, the perfect category. It just has to make sense for you. And you put that on the budget sheet, is the one with the sticky note at the bottom. You line all those out. You put the amount that you're budgeting for it. So if you have like groceries, and you say, you know what, my goal is not to spend over $100 a week at the grocery store, then you budget $100 a week. So you say $400 a month. That's your budget. Now you can go under budget or you can go over budget, but that is how much you're budgeting. And that comes into play for the next month, and we'll talk about that. So you put that amount on the budget, and then you add up all your expenses. You put that on that budget page where it says total expenses, and you subtract your income or your expected income from those expenses, and you get that extra amount, or you're in the negative or you're in the positive. If you're in the negative, then you need to go where it says deficit, put how much you're negative, and decide what you're going to do about it. Where you're going to borrow from another place to make that balanced. If you're in a positive, you decide where you're going to put that extra money. Where are you going to, if you have debt at all of that, every single bit of that needs to go to your number one debt on your debt snowball. Okay, every single bit of it. There's no extra nothing. You're not going to go out to eat. You're not going to reward yourself for having extra money. You're not going to do any of that. You're going to put all that for your debt snowball. If you're debt free, you're going to put all that in your savings, whatever your savings target is. And you have to have a savings target, because you can't be, and I say can't, meaning psychologically, if you just are saving for a rainy day, for instance, you're going to spend the money if you're a spender, because you're going to be like, that's not concrete enough. Money needs a job. Money needs a job. You think that you need a job to make money, but in actuality, your money needs a job. Money in the universe needs a job, and it'll flow. Money will flow to the person who gives it the best job. I think that's how we got out of debt so fast, is that I was sending up the message that I had a really strong job that I wanted money to do. I wanted money to pay off my debt so I could spend more time with my kids, and not be stressed out, not stay up late at night worrying about money. So money needs a job, and money is attracted to people who feel like, they need it, not in a desperation kind of way, but in a way that's like, they'll put it to best use, I guess you could say. Like, I'm going to put the money to work so the money will flow to you in order to have that job. So when you have a savings, you need to still have a label on it. I'm working on, I sketched it out. I'm not making it yet because I have some other projects ahead of it. But I'm working on a Rich Ladies Ledger, which is going to be the next installment of the Budget Diary series, that is going to be for people who are debt-free. So once you go through the Budget Diary and you become debt-free, and you will not probably even finish out the year of using the Budget Diary before you need to graduate to the Rich Ladies Ledger, but that's okay. We'll talk about that later. But the Rich Ladies Ledger will be the same kind of thing. When you have extra money, what job are you giving extra money? Which portion of service, like a charity, or which portion of your savings, like your retirement versus your stock investments, are you putting your money in? Your money needs a job. So if you find yourself in a negative, which I did probably for 8 months, I was in the negative by like a lot, by like $2,000. I was spending $2,000 more than I was making. And it's like, how was that possible? Well, that's possible because I had credit cards, and I was spending on my credit card. And when you spend on your credit card, you can overspend, and it just builds up and builds up. You pay it off in time. So that was a bad deal. So when I realized that, I had to cut up my credit cards. That's the remedy for that. Cut up your credit cards where you can't use them. Now you got to get creative. Now you got to have cash. You have cash. When the cash is gone, that's it. You try using your debit card, but you better not overdraft that sucker. Like, gone is gone is gone. And it's all a behavior thing. It's just like eating right and exercising. It's the same type of thing. It's all a behavior thing. But probably like exercise, you can get addicted to good financial habits, and it feels good to do something good with your finances. So the budget sheet, and I can go through, and it is in a hub. So you did ask that question about assets, but all of the pages are in the hub. How clear they are, I don't know. I hope that they're clear enough to understand. The assets and liabilities page is clear. So when you do your budget sheet, it's just that easy. So you take your debts from June, not debts. You take your payments, your expenses from June, you put them on the July budget. You decide, based on looking at June, you say, well, I spent this much on this, so I should expect to spend about this much. Or I'm going to do better in this category, so I can expect to spend this much. So you make that prediction forward, and then you balance the numbers. And that's going to take some practice. So don't beat yourself up if you are in the negative for a little while and it takes you a while to get to the positive. The other thing... So there's a space at the bottom for the cash envelopes and how much you get out of the money machine. And don't count, when you're adding up the expenses, don't count what's in the cash envelopes, because you've already counted it with the other expenses. So like, I have a cash envelope for gas, for fuel, so I'm not going to count it because I've already counted it with my commute. I have a cash envelope where I put grocery money. I'm not going to count that again because I've already counted it when I counted for food. And my food box includes groceries and restaurants. Right? So I'm giving myself an allowance, and you want to do that. You don't want to be too strict. You want to give yourself an allowance to say, we can eat out maybe once a week, maybe once every 2 weeks. We don't have to go cold turkey. But here's the thing. If you're in the negative, and you know, when you do your income minus expenses and it comes out to be negative, you're going to have to take that away. Like, you're going to have to take money from other categories that are not essential and put them to things that are essential to make sure your budget balances. Okay? And then you have to remember going forward in the month, like going through the month of July, that, hey, when you feel tempted, you're like, man, I really want to roll through Taco Bell, but I remember those numbers didn't match up. And if I roll through Taco Bell, I'm going to be in trouble by the time the light bill comes. If the light bill comes in the 26th of July, it's like today is the 11th. I'm going to be in trouble if I don't, go home and eat what I already cooked, eat my leftovers. So that's what a written budget does for you. That's why, I don't know why, but like apps don't do that for me, because there's something just connected to the human experience of writing something down, making a goal. And Michelle Rohrer says, planning is everything, but plans are useless. Because at the end of the day, the budget that you wrote down is not even a little bit important. What is important is the fact that you wrote it down, because then it etches something in your brain that tells you, hey, this is what we're working with. This is how much money I have. This is how much I can spend. This is how much, like, my goal. I have goals around this money. All of these dollars have a job. I can't just, somebody comes up, hey, you want to buy such and that? Yeah, I'll buy that. No. My money has a job. If somebody's like, hey, can I borrow $5? No, because all my money has a job. Like, at the beginning of the month, I put my money to work. I gave my money a job, and sorry, So, the assets and just to answer the third question, the assets and liabilities worksheet is, you got it in your packet, didn't you? I think you did. If not, you have it in your original budget diary. I'm not sure. You should have. Maybe not. Yeah, you should have. Anyway, because it's at the very beginning. At the top, you write down your assets. At the bottom, you write down your liabilities. And you basically, when you're starting to create your big book, it's just it's a fun activity. That's what it is. It's a fun activity, and at the end of doing it, you'll know roughly what your net worth is. Now, I say it's fun. When I did it, it was a kick in the pants. Like, I did it, and then I sent it to my financial planners back, last year when I had financial planners. I sent it to them because I was like, this is some bull crap. And it was extremely annoying because I did not have as many assets as I thought that I would. So somebody is behind me with like a battering ram on the front of their car. I was like, is that a cop? What's happening? Anyway, so you get your big book started, and you have everything that you own, everything that you could liquidate for money is an asset. And so you put the name of the thing, you put how much it's valued at, and you put whatever notes you need to put. I would put like as of such and such date. That way I'm not going back, because as you're building your big book, you may not have all the information at the same time. You may just have like, okay, I have this whatever asset, something that I own, something that I could sell myself, and it's worth this much as of this date. And then, maybe 2 or 3 months later, you putting together your big book, and another idea comes into your head about something else that you own, and you can add that in and say, as of this day, as of August, this one is worth this much, but the other one was from, March. So you just list all your assets, and it's not something that should be completed all in one sitting. It could be, but I think more often what happens is you work on it, and then you go about your business, and your intuition will pop something in your head like, hey, don't forget about, all that china that your great grandmother gave you that's in the, shed or whatever, and it's worth, however much it's worth, and you go back and like, oh yeah, that's right, I have all that, all those antiques or whatever, and you add that in later. So you fill out as much as you can remember, and then you come back and then you fill out a little more, and you come back and you fill out a little more, and it's just a nice document to have. And you go back and you look at it and you review it, and as you pay things off, like your car may be a liability, but then you have it on your debt snowball and you pay off your car, and now it becomes an asset to you, because if you sell it, it's worth some money. So you can look it up on kellybluebook.com and say, oh, my car is worth this much on this date, so you've changed it to an asset. So you just kind of play around with that. It's a really fun activity to see how much your net worth is, and just to get an idea of how much your net worth is. Liabilities are interesting. So liabilities are things that you are paying for. So all the things, that are tangible items on your debt snowball are your liabilities. And when I did the video for Assets and Liabilities Worksheet, I put both houses as actually, I think I put the rental house as an asset because we had a renter in there and we were kind of making profit off of it. But anyway, your mortgage is really a liability because you owe that money to the bank. Like you can sell it and get equity. So if you have equity, you can say, equity is the asset. Equity for this particular home is an asset. But then the mortgage, the amount that you still owe on the house, is the liability. So your house is in both categories. You know what I mean? So people think that homes are like, oh, you own a home and this and that. But if you still have payments on the home, a big chunk of that is under the liabilities. Oh, okay. You don't have internet. That's okay. It's being recorded. I think I lost connection to the internet for a little while there in the middle too. So I'll just post it in the group so you can see the recording. What else is there? So I really want to stress to you guys to have fun with it. Have fun with making the budget. If you are a planner person, if you like paper and pencil planning, you will love it. Like, add it to your planner repertoire. Put stickers on it. Doodle on it, draw on it, use, color markers and all this on it, because the more and more that I think about walking you guys through the process, the more I realize that, like, you really have to be a planner person to like it. Like, you can't be someone who likes apps, because people keep telling me, you should make an app for it, you should make an app for it. And I just don't, I'm not an app person, so I just don't feel like it would be appropriate as an app. If you're a person who likes to write things down, who knows the power of a written goal setting session, knows the power of a written budget, have fun with it. Don't make it into a chore. Give yourself your pep talk before you open it up. Go into it with a light heart and with the idea that, you know what, I'm learning how to do this. Like, nobody is born knowing already how to budget. I'm learning how to do this and I'm having a good time with it. And what happens is that opens up the whole world to you, because when you're having fun with something, that's what makes the money attracted to you. It's like, this girl is having fun with this. She's setting goals. She's giving her money a job. And I think I'm going to reward her with more money that she can play with. And that's exactly what happened to me. So I know that it works. I was having fun with it. Now so I started budgeting in February of 2018. And it was until January of 2019 that it was a chore for me. I was so serious. I was like an accountant. Every morning I was doing my presidential daily brief. I had a calendar. I was writing out what came out of the accounts. I was analyzing it. I was calculating. You know how you calculate? You take your credit card payment or your credit card balance, and you see what the minimum amount is, and then you divide it and you try to figure out how long is it going to take for me to pay this thing off, and then you get like 150 years or something like that, and you're like, what? Like, I am going to die before I pay this bill off. And that feeling is the worst feeling in the world. So I spent that whole year just feeling like I'm never going to be out from under this thing. This is always going to be, this is going to be my life, is paying debts. So it was in January when I had been doing personal development for about 2 or 3 months, and I started to take a lighthearted approach to it. And I started to, instead of struggling with it, instead of fighting it and wrestling to the ground, I said, let's make this a game. In October, I think I got the Passive Income with Printables course. So I was learning how to make my homemade planners into marketable planners. And the first one I started with was the personal development planner, and I worked on that for a while. Actually, I created it, I was using it, and I said, I'm not going to put it to market yet, which is a good thing because it was like massive. But I said, let me work on something smaller that I can put out to market and have something that that's done already. So I did the budget diary because I thought it was smaller, because I didn't know it was going to be this monster. And I started working on that in January, and I finished it in January, and somebody bought it. And then in February, a bunch of people bought it, and I was using it myself, and it was so much fun, and I was having fun telling people about it, and I was having fun using it. And then in March, we got this humongous check, and it was like, oh, you're debt free. And it was a delightful roller coaster. And I know that the difference between spending a year wrestling with my budget versus spending 3 months having fun with my budget is the reason that everything opened up so suddenly. Because the conversations that I had about, like, the check that we got that from the insurance company, and the fight and the struggle that I had June or July, or both, January, May, June, July, so many months fighting with the insurance company to close our accounts, to tell us how much money was in the account, to give us the money from the account. And it was a struggle, and it went nowhere. I actually gave up on it in July. My husband didn't even, support me in it. He was just like, just leave it alone, just leave it alone. And so I just left it alone. Well, in the next year, in March, I didn't do anything. I didn't have to struggle at all. My husband called me one day, and he said, you know what? I've been thinking. He said, I've been listening to Dave Ramsey's podcast. And I'm like, wow, really? Okay. I've been listening to Dave Ramsey's podcast. You know that money that you were trying to get out? I think we ought to close that account. Next thing you know, account's closed. Like, I didn't even have to do anything. I didn't have to argue with anybody. I didn't have to fight with anybody. Account's closed. Money's in the bank. Paid off the debt. And so it's just something about releasing the resistance and going with the flow. And instead of fighting, just relaxing and letting things happen, allowing things to happen to you, instead of like trying to make things happen and be in the struggle and fight for this and fight for that. Let things happen, send up your prayers, and let the universe guide you, and have fun along the way. And that's the most important thing. So I just want to encourage you in that. And please continue to send me questions to let me know how I can serve, because I'm like trying to figure out, I feel like I'm like making you guys do something you don't want to do. And I want to know that if we're on the same page, if we're on the right track, if you guys have any questions or need any further guidance, it really helps when you ask questions. So thank you, Diane, for the question. And if you have any more, let me know. Bye. I'm going to post the replay in bye.